is Tyrese Halliburton, and you're listening to Setting the Pace.
What is up, Pacer Nation? Welcome back to another episode here of your go-to Pacers podcast, Setting the Pace. I'm your host, Alex Golden. Joining me is the president of the Yard Sale Fan Club. It is Michael J. Facci. Facci, did you go yard selling at all this weekend?
I didn't, but I did hit eBay. I did hit eBay for a couple of VHSs. We're in that big VHS kick right now for my daughter. Got some Barney movies. So I don't know if you guys, if you're around our age, Barney's real big in the household. We're pretty much just watching the same video over and over and over again. It's like night before Christmas or something like that with Barney. So, you know, we're on the Barney vibe right now. So this is where I'm at in my life. So when I'm not watching Barney, I'm talking Pacer basketball. Happy to be here today.
Quick Barney story before we dive into some Pacer stuff. So I grew up on Barney. I'm sure you did too.
Oh, yeah.
So there was a point when I was, I think, 4 years old in like preschool. I faked being sick so I could go home, have my mom pick me up, and go home and watch Barney. Well, my mom, you know, she picks me up, and I guess I just told her myself. I don't know what happened. She's told me the story before, so I don't remember it. But basically, she said, "Oh, you called me from work to take you home because you're sick so you could watch Barney. Okay, you're going to sit in this chair and you're going to watch Barney for the rest of the night." So she made me sit in the chair for 8 hours and watch Barney episodes. And
8 hours is a long time.
That's a long time to sit in the chair. So I'm just saying, I had to eat my dinner and my lunch in front of it. It didn't ruin Barney for me, but it definitely made me not lie again for that reason.
Okay. All right. Well, the lesson worked. Another kid might think this is awesome, but I do think in that situation, it sounds like, hey, you learned a lesson of not lying again. So therefore, hey, Mama Golden, it worked.
Mama Golden, she definitely knew what worked and knew what buttons to push with me. So I'm still a bit of a smart aleck and still a bit of pain in the butt for a lot of people, but you know, not with her. I'll just put it that way. So. But we're on today's episode, we're going to be diving into a fun conversation, just kind of put a bow, I think, a little bit on our evaluation of the offseason and just ask the simple question. Did the Pacers front office do enough in free agency in the offseason to kind of get this team back to that championship level that they were just at 2 years ago? And so as we kind of lay that question out here, where was the first place you kind of started when you dove into like, how did they approach this whole thing?
I felt like it goes back to obviously losing your draft pick. You lost your draft pick. That would have been a very, very meaningful player if you're picking in the top four. I mean, we saw what those top four draft picks looked like summer league. I just feel like there's a lot of potential with those players. When that happened, it felt like a little bit of, okay, like, what do you do? Do you double down, make a big move, take a big swing? I felt like the Pacers, you know, threw out that term contingency plan. So it made it seem like, hey, you know, we're going to go out there and we're going to be able to bring in kind of, I don't know, maybe we just glass half full thought of big fish. That didn't quite happen. So I felt like you're backpedaling off of missing on your draft pick. And I felt like it immediately went from Pacers probably going to bring in Trey Murphy III. Now, the front office never said that was going to happen, but that's where people's heads went. And I felt like when a big move like that didn't happen, disappointment started to kind of set in a little bit, partly because the rest of the league was going after big fish. And I feel like that kind of set the tone for making it feel that the Pacers did not do enough.
Yeah, and it's interesting when you look around the Eastern Conference, like teams that really haven't done too much. You look at a team like Orlando, right? They've basically brought Vooch back, and that's all they've done. The Cavaliers have signed Thomas Bryant back, and they extended Donovan Mitchell. That was kind of their big move. Then you got the Pistons, who they made some weird decisions, but they traded Isaiah Stewart. There seemed to be a falling out there with the coaching staff.
They're in a weird spot.
Yeah, I mean, they got John Collins, but I think it's kind of a nice Isaiah Stewart replacement, a better three-point shooter, like was a top percentage three-point shooter last year for the Clippers. And he's kind of been one of those guys, throughout his career. But you still have Cade, the Jalen Duren thing is kind of sitting there in the open, like what's going to happen with that? But then the other moves that are like pretty significant, like Philadelphia gets Jaylen Brown. Boston moves on from him for Paul George. And I mean, it's definitely a step back, but they still got Mitchell Robinson, and they still made some other moves around the edges to kind of make themselves a little bit more of a
will be healthy. Okay. Yeah, no,
And then
definitely.
Miami
But, like,
getting Giannis, but, like
yeah, exactly. There's a lot of other teams out there. I mean, Miami finally getting a big fish. We've joked around this for years that, oh, they're gonna go big game hunting, and they end up doing nothing. They got Giannis, and I felt like, sure, they haven't done anything since, but, it seems like they could still have the opportunity to do that. Toronto with Kawhi. I don't know what the situation is on that status, but it looked like a really big move at the time. So, and even going back to Cleveland, like Cleveland's in the LeBron sweepstakes.
they
They
are.
really are. I don't know if it'll happen or not. It wouldn't surprise me if it did, because I do feel like it makes a lot of sense for LeBron to go back home to where it started, and it's already a really good roster. And if he's willing to take, a significant pay cut, like they can keep the talent around him, maybe even bring back James Harden. All of a sudden now it looks like Cleveland had a really good offseason. So we've seen teams around us. Atlanta by the day. I mean, look, they just make a trade for Lou Dort. Now they brought in Aaron Wiggins, they brought in Lou Dort last year. Obviously, CJ McCollum, like they re-sign him. So I just feel like Atlanta has positioned themselves to be someone that like you gotta take seriously. So a lot of those teams did get better. The Knicks just ran it back, and you look at the Pacers, and now you start to squint your eyes and go, well, I mean, how's Halliburton gonna look? Like, that's what it really comes down to, is just like, could they bottle up the magic of the past? And I don't know. Maybe they can, maybe they can't. But this offseason's been a little bit on the quieter side, I'd say.
Yeah, I would say that it's been I mean, underwhelming seems a little bit harsh or a little bit over the top because, the Pacers wouldn't, I mean, the fans wouldn't say this, but I think the Pacers would say this. Zubats is a part of their offseason
I agree.
moves.
That's the hard part that you
Yeah.
have to factor in. Because if Zubats was just an overall trade in the offseason or a free agent signing, that is a very big move. So I think that, like, you, me, the fan base, we, like, kinda compartmentalize that to say, "Oh, well, that already happened in the past." But, like, I do think that you do probably have to lump those together a little bit, because that is a big move that the Pacers made.
Yeah, and I mean, it's a pretty massive move and a guy on an incredibly fair contract to your
Oh,
team and what
man,
he
that's
brings
good.
to the table. So it's a very savvy move that they made, and of course, like people are like criticizing the move, like just like we did right at the beginning of the draft lottery when we lost a pick. But
Hurt.
it all does come back to that because it's like, well, if they wouldn't have overpaid for Zubats, they would have had the fifth overall pick. Like I saw stuff on Twitter this weekend where they were just like, oh yeah, the Pacers are really regretting that Zubac trade now, seeing Caleb Wilson go off for the Bulls, and I'm like, you guys are idiots. Like, they never had the
Yeah.
fourth overall pick in the first place. The draft lottery didn't, put it out the way. They were going to have the fourth overall pick if the lottery balls went their way. So it's just idiocy from some people, and that's not even a Pacer fan saying that. So it's like they never had a chance to even get one of the top four, and I think that's where like the first swing and a miss really happened was just the draft lottery not going the Pacers' way once again. And, the first chance they would have at like the highest pick they've had since Rick Smits at number 5. I mean, then that goes to the Clippers. And look, Keaton Wagler has not been great in Summer
No.
League, and he's looked a little bit thin and a little bit small and just clearly a work in progress. And so the Pacers didn't really need somebody in that range, in that 5 to 6 range, more than they need Zubats for this team. But I think if you start there with Zoo and say getting a center with his level of talent, his experience, like that makes a massive difference for how you kind of view this offseason. And then as much as you want to like ignore this part of it too, getting a healthy Tyrese Halliburton back for next season,
Huge.
like
Massive.
that's the biggest offseason move that they're going to have. And everything hinges on what he does, but like that's just the bottom line because he is the face of the franchise. He is the super max superstar player on their team. So of course, like no matter who they add, if they go out and trade for Trim over the third, that's fine. But if Tyrese Halliburton's not Tyrese Halliburton, it
Couldn't agree
doesn't
more.
matter.
Couldn't agree more. I do think that if you want to look at the glass half full and you say, like, hey, additions, Tyrese Halliburton, Zubats, Kelly Oubre Jr., like, that to me, that's huge compared to what we had on this roster last year. And I also did see a graphic that was like out versus in, and it was like basically Miles Turner and Benedict Mathurin for Zubats and Kelly Oubre Jr. And you could make an argument to say that like those moves, like now having Zoo and Kelly Oubre is a leg up from a center spot, no doubt at all. You can make the argument between Oubre and Benedict Mathurin. You can go back and forth on that, but like I do feel like the fact that, financially, I mean, Zubats and Kelly Oubre combined are closer it's about like $26 million, I would say. So put it this way, those two players make less than Miles Turner makes
Yeah.
individually. How about that?
How about that?
So to me, financially, it fits what this team needed. Like, they were in a bit of a financial crunch, and I think that they maximized what they could with what they had to spend.
yeah, and I mean, at the end of the day, it's just like we kind of knew they believed in their core seven. We knew that going in to the free agency market. We were just thinking maybe they're going to be a little bit more risky to break that up, but I don't think they are. We'll see what happens in the next couple of years as McConnell's contract goes from like fully guaranteed to partially guaranteed to like team option. I mean, we'll see how they maneuver that. I think it's very nice how they structured it because as he gets older, they have more options with it. And clearly, like they could cut him and then bring him back on a cheaper deal as well. So like I just think there's a lot of different things in play here with a TJ, but like this team is kind of at its max, Foch, with where they're at currently. And by being able to lower their overall salary cap total by trading Cam Jones and then being able to use more money to go out and get a guy like Kelly Oubre Jr., that's a pretty big move. Like we just did the grades on the last episode, but I think being able to get somebody like Kelly Oubre, we were kind of going through it and we're like, the more we talked about Oubre, we were kind of like, I think this is kind of the guy to target. Like it just felt like the most
Yeah.
realistic possibility for what they needed. And I just think that while we don't know what they're going to do with Jarris Walker, the fact that they're $5.8 million away from being under the luxury tax or right around there, and Jarris makes 8.4 as an expiring contract, it doesn't surprise me that they're at that point because I don't know what they're going to do. They've just never paid the tax, and
No.
I don't know. I think they want to give Jarris one more chance before they just cut ties with him. But I thought they would be more willing to trade him for maybe a better upgrade. And that's why I think fans were kind of curious, like, could they go out there and do something, be truly all in? But I think that they feel like they have enough with what they currently have to be all in and to be a championship level team.
They do have a good team. They do. And I do think like this team was owed the opportunity to run it back rather than, hey, Tyrese got hurt. You know what? We're going to be sellers and things like that. I think that the moving on from Turner, I know that their intentions were to bring Turner back, but I think it was a blessing in disguise. Benedict Mathurin, I think that was the tough pill to swallow that we had talked about in previous episode. If you bring back Mathurin, then who's got to go? Which maybe two players have to go, and then you're still trying to figure out where does Mathurin fit in with this group. So I do think that on paper, this is a good team that you can make an argument is better than how they were 1 to 2 years. I will say at this point 2 to 3 years ago, because Zoo, I definitely think is an upgrade over Turner. Oubre, hey, he's deeper. I think the rest of the team, maybe they can take a step forward. Like players like Nemhard should be better than how they were a couple of years ago. Like Aaron Nesmith, I still think has a little bit more in his game. But going back to your topic on Jarris Walker, yeah, he kind of was the trade chip-ish, you could say for this offseason. Like if you did want to make a trade, he seemed like the guy that was making enough money to be able to, float something out there. I can't remember who posted it, but someone did do like the splits on his first half or second half of the season from like a week ago or a handful of days ago. Pacers posted and it was like I have the graphic right in front of me, and it was like first half of the season he averaged just under 9 points per game, about 4 boards, shot under 36%, so downright just rough, and 33% from 3. Second half of the year, averaged 14.5 points per game, 6 boards, shot 46% from the field, and just under 41% from 3. So he definitely had a much stronger, near 40 games on the season. So that's a good sample size to say, hey, you know what? He ended the season much stronger than how he started it. But the thing in question is like he was playing nearly 29 minutes per game in that second half of the season. I don't know what that's going to look like this year, but it's probably sub 20 minutes per night, most likely. I would say a high chance. So what can you do in shorter spurts? That we really don't know, but I do think he's not to say owed another shot, but I think they want to give one last real shot at Jarris Walker to see what he could.
Yeah, I mean, I think that with Jarris Walker, right? the defensive side of the thing is where I'm worried more about him than anything else.
Totally.
Like, we can sit here and talk about what he did offensively. I mean, that's great. I mean, I don't think anybody is surprised that he's a good
Team's
shooter.
already had enough offense. Yeah, that's not the
Right.
problem.
It's just the defensive side of things, and at some point, like, that's going to be a big deal. So he's kind of going to be slotted into what, that 9th, 10th man for this team. And we know TJ is not going to play a ton of minutes, but they've already got enough point guard depth there. So I think you kind of have to go back and look at that 2024, 2025 team and see whose minutes would he be taking, right? I think that's kind of where you have to look at it from like a minutes perspective. We can kind of look at it. So Ben Shepherd that year played 19 and a half minutes. Obi Toppin played 19.6 minutes. So they're right around the same number of minutes per game. Jarris played 15.8 that year in 24-25. So anywhere between, 16, 20 minutes feels about right.
Yep.
And that's about 12 minutes less than what he played last season. That's a lot of time. That's a whole quarter. So he's not going to have the free reign either. And it's just going to be a matter of how does he pan out with this group and what does he do? And once again, Ben Shepherd is going to be pushing him and to make it, like a competition. And rightfully so. I mean, I think Ben Shepherd is, going to be not the favorite, but I think Ben Shepherd's definitely going to have a case to make. And I think Rick Carlisle is going to, appreciate the consistency of Ben Shepherd more than what we've seen from Jarris Walker. But yeah, if Jarris Walker can stay at this level, in terms of like a percentage, right? Like I'm not even worried about the, points per game or anything like that. I'm just looking at it from a percentage standpoint. Can he shoot the ball well and efficiently and lock in on defense? Like, yeah, he's going to end up being this team's backup wing that goes into the games like with Kelly Oubre. But if he doesn't, Shepherd's going to be waiting right there in the wing to take that spot. And once again, we see Pascal Siakam working in Orlando with Jarris Walker. And I don't know if you watched that video or not, but I'm curious if you did.
I did. That was great.
What do you think about that? Because it's just like they constantly have been putting these two guys together since Pascal got traded. And we slowly have seen Jarris take those steps, but it's been kind of a snail's pace compared to maybe what you were hoping it'd be.
It definitely has been a bit of a snail's pace. And I can't remember what the caption was on it, but it was something about just kind of like hinting towards like winning. It was something
if
about
we win,
like,
everybody eats.
Exactly. It was like when I saw that, I was like, I know what that means. That just means that's like, hey man, like whatever role you got, like, if you excel in that role, it's for the betterment of the team. And I do feel like we've heard about that for the last few years of Pascal taking him under his wing. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. I feel like that's what we want to see more of because there's untapped potential in Jarris. There really is. It's just how do we get it out of him? And it might never be necessarily what we hoped for, but if it contributes to being a better overall team, there's always value in that. So I want to see it. I want to see more. We've seen some good flashes. Haven't seen as many longer, consistent flashes. But defensively, just like you said, that's where there's the biggest opportunity. Like we don't need him to be first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, even the seventh scorer on this team. Like I really don't. Maybe you could say seventh. That might be a little bit harsh. But if he could just improve defensively to be able to give us, hey, 5 good minutes here, 5 good minutes there. Star in your role. That's probably the famous saying right now as it relates to Jarris. If he can do that, this Pacers team can be that much more dynamic with their second unit that 3 seasons ago was the best in the league. Last 2 seasons has definitely taken a step back.
It is a scorching sports summer, and you can make all your picks on Prize Picks. The WNBA and baseball are heating up with big tennis slams and major golf tournaments on the horizon. There is no better place for all your summer sports picks than Prize Picks, America's #1 sports picks app. Listen, the biggest stars in women's basketball are in the heart of their season. Caitlin Clark, Kelsey Mitchell, Leah Boston, listen. And there's no better place to run your game on the W than Prize Picks. That's America's #1 sports picks apps. We've got MVPs raising their game to new heights. We got a rookie class ready to take over, all while teams are fighting for playoff positioning like your Indiana Fever. So make a lineup with player stats, pick game winners, spreads, or totals, and combine your picks in the same lineup. All on Prize Picks, now available in all 50 states. So download the app today and use code PACE to get $50 instantly in lineups when you play your first $5. That's right, download the app today and use code PACE to get $50 instantly in lineups when you play your first $5. Prize Picks, America's #1 sports picks app. Yeah, and I think the reason we're talking about this on this episode today is because when you're looking at, do the Pacers do enough, right? Like, I think it comes down to, can Jarris Walker step up? Can Jarris Walker kind of be that missing piece for this team? And I don't want to rule it out because I feel like it's easy to do or just kind of easy to overlook it because we've seen how this team operates. But it's something in the back of my mind. Like, sure, they could easily trade him if he doesn't live up to expectations or if he's not really, pushing that much further ahead than Shep, right? Like if he's just like barely better than Shepherd, are they going to be like, all right, well, we've already seen Shep in the playoffs be more consistent and a better defender in the playoffs. And so, what we're going to do? We're going to save money and be a cheap team again, get under the luxury tax. Like it makes you sick to your stomach when you hear that. But it's like, I just don't like when teams are championship level teams and they say they're willing to pay the tax and then they refuse to do it. Now, if you feel like Jarris Walker's not really moving the needle, that's worth it to pay the tax. And I get it, but like, I don't know. I feel like this is your, one of your highest draft picks you've had in a very long time, 8th overall pick. You got him in a really savvy move with the Wizards to get some extra second round picks and the same deal where you're going to get the same guy you wanted anyway. And you go out there, you get Jarris Walker at 8, and you develop him, you turn him from a 4 to a 3, and all of a sudden you're just hoping that he can evolve and turn it into something better. So I'm curious to see how he plays, and I'm curious to see how that all goes. But it's like, the Jays are the guys that I'm watching the most, Facci, during this next, 6 months. Jarris and J Huff, see what they do, because at the end of the day, like the Pacers really, really need to kind of be able to trust them. And then I think the other J that you can throw in this is Johnny Furphy. How does he, recover from this injury? Because I think Johnny Furphy showed enough flashes last year on the defensive side of things and then as a cutter to where you can maybe say, well, maybe if we have Johnny Furphy making like just a little over $2 million versus Jarris Walker, that's a better deal for us. And he might actually fit the system just a little bit better.
I do think Jarris probably would have been more expendable if Furphy was healthy, because I think there would have actually been solid expectations that Johnny Furphy is like a consistent contributor for this team. So yeah, it's definitely unfortunate in injury, but I think for Jarris, like this is not to say a second chance, but it's an opportunity. So hopefully you can seize it. But yeah, the 3 J's, I definitely think that if there could be that internal growth, that's huge. I mean, those players are, I can't say young enough because J Huff's probably like 28. He's somewhere right around there. Not old, but like not as young as a Furphy or a Jarris Walker. But those two players have a lot of really good basketball ahead of them. If they could take that next step and improve, I don't know, 10, 20% this year, that would go a long way for this group, because I do think that like having Halliburton back, huge shot in the arm. Aaron Nesmith looked like a shell of himself at times without Halliburton and others. Obi Toppin, I felt like finished the season strong, but I do think that there's a good opportunity for this group. TJ McConnell didn't quite look McConnell-like last year. I think maybe, I don't know if it was, I don't want to say conserving energy, but he just didn't need to dive all around in kind of meaningless games. So I think that this team has more to give. But yeah, the other teams around them definitely raised the bar, and I think that Indiana didn't raise the bar with them. I think they said, hey, we're already a great team that believes in what we have. We're going to, like similar to what the Thunder did. Like, look at the Thunder. Really good team. Did they get better, or did they shave like $300 million in tax savings? I feel like they did what they could to maintain this roster as best as they could. They got some younger, cheaper replacements, but I don't think the Thunder got better. I think that's kind of where the Pacers are at, where they kept this group together. They found some cost-fitting type of situations. Zubac's totally different. That's way more than that. That is a big addition. Kelly Oubre, solid addition, but I felt like they didn't say, you know what, backs against the wall, we have to make a big splash just to make a big splash.
Yeah, I mean, with the Thunder, like this is a championship level team, and for them to just kind of be like, we got to save money because we can't operate as a second neighbor team, like to add and lose 3 wings,
like a similar
3 wing players.
I know.
Now the only thing that's nice about the Thunder is they have draft picks, and they've been able to kind of stockpile these players up.
They had draft picks. They have a bunch of second-round picks, but they're starting to run thinner
I'm saying
on those
players they've
first.
taken with their draft picks, right?
Totally. Absolutely.
Like Bennett Sturts and, Ade Mara and Thomas Sorber
Yeah,
and whoever
right.
else they've got, and then Case and Wallace is clearly going to start. They were able to get Jared McCain, right, from Philly for basically nothing last year. And so
Great pickup for them.
as ridiculous as the Thunder are in terms of, what they've been able to do, like they did give up 3 quality rotation players this offseason, but they have enough people, I think, kind of waiting in the wings where you feel like, okay, like they can probably make it work, and they still have their big 3 intact, and they still brought Isaiah Hartenstein back, and they still got Caruso, and they still got Case and Wallace. So, like, they didn't lose their identity. They just lost some pieces of it. But we'll see. I mean, every team kind of goes through that, especially in this new CBA. And when you got 3 players on these Supermax deals, like, it's really, really tough to kind of go out there and build properly. So the Pacers right now, they only have 2 guys on these max deals. I don't know what the future looks like for Pascal Siakam. I don't know how much longer he plans on being an effective player at his age, but it seems like, the way he keeps his body in shape, he could go into his late 30s and still be pretty effective. So I don't know if the Pacers are going to just move off of him after this contract's up, like a lot of people are kind of expecting. But for this upcoming season, like, once again, it all just hinges on Halliburton. And it's like, okay, they brought Kobe Brown back. That doesn't move the needle. Well, what were they going to do instead? Like, that doesn't make a big difference. The same thing with Quenton Jackson. Like, they didn't really have any other options there to do that. The only one I would kind of like quibble out, which we did last episode, was the center spot, Facci. Like, the not addressing the backup center spot enough potentially. But at the end of the day, it's like it's backup center. We saw how bad they played without even having one as a viable option. At least they have a viable option going into the season. Like, they were desperate for a backup center whenever they lost Wiseman and Isaiah Jackson. I mean, Moses Brown and all these different players they had before they ended up trading for Thomas Bryant in December. So if things aren't working out well for Huff by December 15th, when that, however many days it's in the league that have passed, it'll be okay. They'll go out there and address it if they really feel like there's a need to address. But the Larry Nance signing, like, it is what it is. I like this group. And I think because we're so close to it, maybe we can overlook it a little bit and not realize how valuable our own team is to us. But I think this is still a championship level team, Facci, as long as Halliburton can get back to what he once was.
And like we said earlier, that is definitely what it all hinges on. But yeah, this is definitely a very good team on paper. I just think that the East has caught up. A couple of years ago, the East was in a much weaker spot. You saw the cracks in the Bucks. The Knicks weren't ready yet. Cleveland still had not been able to, there's still haven't been able to get to where they want to be. But I just felt like there was a lot of other teams that were, maybe worse than they were. Miami was like stuck in the play-in. A lot of those teams have definitely upped their game, upped their talent. It's going to be a really, really competitive East. You brought up earlier, Orlando just maintained. They have a team that obviously has higher expectations. The Pistons, a 1 seed, no one's even talking about them. So yeah, for Indiana, like, they do have a good team. Is it enough? I don't know. Could they have done more? Probably. But I do think that because the Zubats move happened at this point 5+ months ago, it's very, very easy to kind of say, well, you know what? That it feels like that was a while ago. But in reality, the guy played about 5 games with, I remember him catching lobs from Ethan Thompson. Like, it's going to be different next year. So I'm excited about that. Big Zoo in this Pacers offense, obviously on defense as well. But being in the system for as long as he's been in, I think is going to benefit a lot more than just signing in free agency. He's been with this group now for, dating back to February. That's got to be worth something.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's great to get a look at his medicals, get a look at, like, how he is, like, personality-wise with this team, look what they want to do, and now they get more time to, like, hey, we know what we actually have in him, and so here's what we want you to work on in the offseason, here's what we want to do, and try all these different ideas out, because, like, Carlisle even said it, it's going to look different. Like, we talked about that a couple episodes ago, where Carlisle said about Zoo is going to change, not everything, but kind of like, they're going to be drastically different than they were with Turner, and for the first time in a long time, I actually saw a CBS Sports Power Rankings, Facci, where they had the Pacers 4th overall heading into next season. And
wow,
all
really?
they had above us was San Antonio, New York, and OKC. They had Indiana as the second-ranked Eastern Conference team, and you will not see that probably anywhere else. But
No, I really don't
I was
see that, but I
shocked.
love that because those are the last 4 teams to make the NBA Finals, so there's definitely a level of respect there. I've seen it kind of all over between the Pacers had a really good offseason to the Pacers had one of the most disappointing offseasons. I've seen it all over depending on maybe who's trying to get clicks or who's credible and who isn't. But I definitely think that there's the people who don't follow the NBA as much that just look at it and say the Pacers traded a top 5 pick for Zubats when, like, in reality, there was a 50-50 chance to be able to keep that pick, and they have not no one's even really seen him in a Pacers uniform playing meaningful basketball with Halliburton and the rest of the team. That could change a lot of perceptions very quickly.
Yeah, and I would just be honest with you, like, I try to just be like, with whatever, like, in terms of like my fandom plus my like writing plus my podcasting, like, I try to be pretty even keel. Like, I don't try to be like too much of a homer, but also like I'm sitting here in and I'm in this Discord chat, Foch, and my editor is like giving out ideas for all these sites to write for, and so he covers the Miami Heat. So like the Miami Heat's part of one of our sites. And they're like, for the Pacers, I think it'd be a good article to write. How does LeBron going to Miami impact the Pacers' title chances? I was like, what are we doing? Like I don't think LeBron going to Miami with the roster they currently have constructed is really going to make the Pacers' chances of winning that much less. Like, he's a good player. Like, and I got some pushback from Heat fans, of course. I'm sure you saw it on Twitter, but I'm like, if you've got Andrew Wiggins playing the 2. Like, who is LeBron and Giannis gonna guard? Like, they want to play like off-ball defenders and not guard the best players, but it's like, I was like, how? Like, you think LeBron's gonna guard Halliburton or Nembhard the entire playoff series, or like he was gonna try to Neesmith? That's who he's gonna try to guard probably, and like Neesmith's gonna make him pay for that with like boxing out and things like that. And then who you gonna put Giannis on? Pascal? Like, we saw what much Pascal cooked against the Bucks when he was on him. Like, they had to switch and different things like that, and then you do these pick and roll situations and you get like a guard switched onto Giannis and LeBron, they'll go right by him. They're just like, their lateral quickness is not as good.
Like,
they're better at guarding 4s and 5s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah,
That's all I'm saying.
exactly.
It's like, that is a weird fit to me. Like, I don't like it. And then like from a floor spacing fit, like Giannis can't shoot threes. Bam is slowly becoming a better 3-point shooter. Like, LeBron has got much, much better as a 3-point shooter in his
Oh,
career.
definitely has to.
But like, is LeBron going to be a catch and shoot guy? Or are they going to basically just stagger the minutes where like when Giannis isn't on the floor, LeBron's running the second unit? Like, I think it's interesting because it's like unique, but it's like, do I think that's going to really impact the Pacers' chances of winning a title? No. The only thing I'm really worried about with the Pacers' chances of winning a title is a healthy Tyrese Halliburton.
Yeah, I think that should be our concern. Let everything else kind of fall into place. I think there's way too many factors in there. Like, the East is just going to be stacked. I mean, the days of having the top 8 teams with a winning record, and after that, there's teams sub 500. I think it's done. I think there's going to be very good teams that are in the play-in this year. When I say play-in, I still mean like 9 and 10 in that spot. I know it's obviously 7 through 10, but yeah, it's going to be a battle. So I think that this Pacers team, real good. They could be predicted all over the place. I think depending on whichever outlet you read, could have the Pacers as maybe a top 4 seed to maybe being a play-in team. I think it's going to be that. Just shows that it's like you got to buckle up, you got to stay healthy, you got to gel at the right time. That's all that really matters, because there's always those teams that are like the Pistons, 1 seed going to the playoffs, fighting for their lives in round 1 in a 7-game series. They get bounced earlier. No one even remembers at the end of the day that they were the 1 seed. All about gelling at the right time. We've seen that happen with this Pacers team. That's what happens with a veteran team that's experienced, has that continuity, that chemistry, goes a long, long way. Those other teams that we mentioned, they've added great players, but will they all be able to play well together? That's a totally different story.
The New York Knicks figured out that continuity is important, and they've kind of kept their group outside of Mitchell Robinson. So we'll see what they do without him, but they pretty much have their same group, so it'll be interesting to see. And Tyrese Halliburton.
One quick thing. I was going to say that. That is exactly when you said the Knicks. That's where my head went. That's what happens when we've been doing the show so long. Obviously, Saturday night's main event, WWE. Once again, you got Tyrese Halliburton coming into the Garden as the heel, as we call it in wrestling, with Seth Rollins against it was Roman Reigns and Jalen Brunson. I thought it was interesting. Brunson's got like I don't know if he had like a wrist situation, he had like a splint on.
He had
Halliburton
surgery,
obviously
didn't
has
he?
the Achilles. Yeah, he must have had some type of surgery. So you got both guys are coming out there. They're both very hurt, and obviously, they're not going to be touched. But I loved it was like Halliburton was saying, "I'll be back in a few months and you still can't beat me." It was like something along those lines. And I'm like, that is so true because he still can't beat Halliburton and the Pacers when it matters most. And I love the fact that this rivalry has like now been seen on WWE TV numerous times. It's been seen in the playoffs. Brunson's got the ring now. Yes, we want that. But there's still in the back of his head, can you beat Tyrese Halliburton and the Pacers when it matters most?
Yeah, I saw that. I thought of you. I thought of a lot of a lot of my other
Oh, I
friends that are
loved it.
wrestling fans, and I just love the fact that when Michael Cole introduced him, he goes, "Oh no, not in the Garden! It's Tyrese Halliburton, the
Yep.
Knicks' biggest villain." And I'm like, "Okay, let's go!"
I
Like this is
love it.
Michael Cole,
You
terrific at what
imagine
he
Reggie
does.
Miller back in the day in this type of setting, like Reggie Miller in like the Attitude Era or anything like that? Like that would have been awesome just coming into the Garden. I think WWE has done a great job of like, in specific, like Halliburton is living out his dream. When we interviewed him years ago, he talked about how he wanted to be part of, you know, just anything, part of any sort of segment, and the Kings kind of shot it down. Now
Mhm.
it's like he's got a great relationship with WWE, and he's like kind of become like the NBA WWE guy.
Yeah,
Like I really feel like he has, and that's just awesome. And Brunson's made some like appearances here and there, but like I just think Halliburton's owned it way more. Like just not to critique Jalen Brunson, but Roman Reigns is getting whooped on, and Jalen Brunson's just standing there in the corner. Like it's like, come on, man, you got to do something. Like this is live TV. I think Halliburton just like knows his role a lot better, knows how to play into the character, and it definitely shows being a lifelong fan.
for sure. I mean, I will say, shout out Carl Towns for the 2 choke slams that he
Yeah,
had through the table. Those were good.
he those were good choke slams. He looked like a formidable threat. Like he looked like he could have gone one on one with Undertaker or Kane or someone like that. Every time Cat opens up his mouth on the microphone, the voice might not match the look, but I felt like those choke slams looked legit. It looked like a big man that could have been like, like an opponent of the Undertaker back in the day.
Yeah, I think the only thing that we can ever maybe hope for to see in the future is you mentioned Reggie Miller in this era, like just going out there and like being the heel in Madison Square Garden. Imagine Tyrese and Reggie showing up together in the Garden for a
Would have
wrestling
been awesome.
event.
That
That'd
would be
be
cool.
sick.
That really would. I definitely think that it's just fun to see like where we're at because it's like I know like right now maybe the Pacers weren't in the spotlight this year, but like and but I wanna pivot a little bit. I hate how Trae Young is still trying to be like he's, like, holding on to this, like, 15 minutes of relevance from, like, 5 years ago. Like, shows up to Fanatic Fest. He's got, like a Brunson jersey, like, tears it or something like that. It's like,
He did not
"Bro,
tear
you
that.
guys played in, like, 1 series." Yeah, whatever it is. He held it up and was like, "Boom,"
No, I'm saying
you
he
guys
couldn't
played in
tear it. He
1
tried.
series. Yeah, yeah, exactly. He's not strong enough. I mean, come on, he's a string bean. It was just like embarrassing to be. You guys played in 1 series together 5 years ago, bro. Move on. You're not even on the Hawks anymore. You switched to the Wizards. You have not been in like the spotlight in a while. Like at least with Halliburton, like the Knicks know that it's like, man, like Knicks fans, they're like, I hate that guy, and it's like rightfully so. I love it because you can't beat us.
I love it too, Facci, and, I will just say almost every single Pacers tweet, if you look at the comment section, even on Twitter, you got Knicks fans posting pictures of themselves with the championship, like the AI images of the Knicks with the championship, and I'm like, if the Pacers weren't that important, then why are you in the Pacers Summer League
Oh yeah.
comments mentioning that you won a championship? You know why? Because you're still thinking about us, and it's really cute. Uh, I had a Knicks fan, like, commenting on one of my off-season grade stories on Twitter, and they were just like, "Are you an idiot?" And I'm like, "Why are you commenting on this? This has nothing to do with you." And they previously commented something else on my page, and I said, "Cute AI photo you posted there." Just idiocy. Like I think the Knicks fan base, like on Twitter especially, it might be the worst in the NBA. They're just idiots half the time.
Yeah, they're they don't have the best rep. So it's like now they got their championship. We'll obviously never hear the end of it ever. So the only way to shut them up, we gotta win our own. Pacers gotta be ready. Hey, I thought this was a good episode to kind of tie into. Did we do enough? Well, we're gonna find out come June of next year.
Absolutely, Facci. Well, that's going to wrap it up for another episode here of your go-to Pacers podcast, Setting the Pace. I'm your host, Alex Golden. That's Michael J. Facci, and we appreciate you guys tuning in. Leave us any comments you have in the comment section below. Let us know what you're thinking about this episode, about this conversation, and tell us, do you think the Pacers did enough in the offseason? So with that being said, Facci, if you're hoping everybody has a great rest of their day, hit me with those 3 words.
Let's go, Pacers.